In the heart of a desolate road, a boy abandoned and broken finds himself face to face with the most unlikely of companions, a lion. Together, they embark on a journey of survival, self-discovery, and unshakable friendship. Through every challenge, the boy's fears and insecurities are tested. But the lion's unwavering strength helps him uncover the hero within. What begins as a struggle for survival evolves into a profound bond that teaches them both the true meaning of courage, love, and the power to overcome even the darkest of times. The impossible becomes reality as they face the world side by side. It was a chilly afternoon when the boy was abandoned on the side of the road. His small body trembled, not just from the cold, but from the fear that gripped his heart. His tear-streaked face and messy hair told a story of hopelessness. How had he ended up here, alone in the world? His parents were nowhere to be seen, and his cries echoed through the empty landscape. But no one answered. The world seemed cruel, leaving him with nothing but the sound of his own sobs and the distant rumble of a car that would never stop for him. Suddenly, from the corner of his eye, he saw something strange. A large shadow loomed, and for a moment he thought it was just his imagination. But as the shadow grew larger and closer, his heart skipped a beat. Slowly, out of the bushes, came a magnificent lion. The boy froze in fear, unsure whether to run or stay still. The lion's golden mane shimmered in the fading sunlight, and its eyes, wild and full of untold stories, locked onto his. It wasn't supposed to be here. Lions didn't roam this part of the world. But this lion was no ordinary creature. It carried an energy that was impossible to explain. The boy's sobs quieted, and he wiped his eyes, unsure whether this was a dream or a nightmare. The lion sat down before him, its gaze softening as if it understood his pain. For a moment, there was a strange connection between them, a shared loneliness. The boy, too afraid to move, simply stared back. He had never been this close to such a wild animal, yet there was no hostility in the lion's eyes. In that moment, something unexpected stirred within him. Hope. The lion didn't move, but neither did the boy. Time seemed to stand still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The lion's golden eyes were soft yet full of mystery, as though it had seen things that no human could ever understand. The boy, feeling the weight of his abandonment, slowly sank to his knees. The tears that had fallen freely before now paused, and for the first time in what seemed like forever, he felt a strange sense of calm. The lion made no sound. It simply sat there, unmoving, its gaze never leaving the boy. The boy had heard stories of lions, of how they were fierce, powerful, and untamable. But this one felt different. It wasn't just the lion's size or beauty that amazed him. It was something deeper, something he couldn't quite grasp. The lion's presence seemed to offer a silent promise, like it had come to protect him, or at the very least, to keep him company. The boy, feeling an unexplainable pull, reached out a trembling hand. Slowly, cautiously, he extended his fingers toward the lion's thick, golden mane. To his surprise, the lion didn't flinch. The boy's hand brushed against the lion's fur, and the warmth that radiated from it was like the touch of the sun on a cold morning. A surge of warmth spread through the boy's chest, and for the first time in days, he felt something other than sadness. Hope. It was as if the lion understood, as if it had known all along that the boy needed this moment of peace. The boy sat there, unsure of how much time had passed. The sun had dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. But still, the lion remained by his side. The world seemed to fade away, and for a brief moment, it was just the two of them, the boy and the lion. The boy had no idea why the lion was here or what would happen next, but he felt an unspoken understanding between them, a connection that words could never describe. As the night grew colder, the boy's stomach rumbled with hunger, a reminder of his emptiness both physically and emotionally. He had no food, no shelter, and no one to turn to. But the lion remained by his side, its calm presence offering a strange kind of comfort. The boy didn't feel so alone anymore. It was as if the lion had become his protector, his silent companion in the darkness of the night. The wind rustled through the trees, and the boy shifted slightly. "Are you real?" he whispered, almost to himself. "Or am I dreaming?" He looked up at the lion, whose gaze never wavered. For a moment, he almost expected it to speak, to answer his question. But the lion remained silent, its powerful form resting quietly beside him. And in that silence, the boy understood something important. Sometimes, the greatest answers are found not in words, but in the quiet moments of connection. As the days passed, the boy and the lion formed an unspoken bond. It was a connection that neither needed to verbalize. It simply existed between them, woven into the fabric of their strange companionship. The boy would wake each morning to find the lion still by his side, patiently watching over him, and every night the lion would rest near him, offering warmth and protection as the cold winds of the world blew around them. The boy began to feel a growing sense of peace, something he had never known in the chaotic world that had abandoned him. He began to talk to the lion, telling it about his fears, his dreams, and the memories of a life he couldn't fully remember. The lion never responded with words, but its presence was all the response he needed. It was as if the lion understood him in a way no one else ever had. It was as if the lion knew his pain and accepted him without judgment. One evening, as the sun began to set, casting a soft, golden light over the landscape, the boy looked up at the lion. He had a thought, a small whisper in his heart. "You'll never leave me, will you?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The lion's eyes met his, and in that moment, it felt like the lion was answering with its gaze, a promise that it would stay, that it would never abandon him. The boy didn't need any more words. He knew, deep down, that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As the days passed, the boy and the lion shared a routine. The boy would explore the road ahead, his eyes scanning for any sign of civilization. But no cars passed by. The lion would follow him, always just a few steps behind, its presence steady and unwavering. Though the boy felt the sting of hunger and the weight of loneliness, there was a strange comfort in the lion's company. One morning, the boy woke to find the lion standing on the edge of a small hill, its eyes fixed on the horizon. The boy followed its gaze, but there was nothing in sight, just the endless road stretching before them. Still, the lion's stance seemed purposeful. It was as if the lion was waiting for something, or someone. The boy, unsure of what to do, sat beside the lion. "Where are we going?" the boy asked softly, his voice full of uncertainty. The lion remained silent, but its calm presence offered no answers, only a steady sense of reassurance. The boy felt that the lion wasn't just leading him to safety, it was leading him to something greater, something beyond the loneliness that had once defined his world. Days blurred together, the boy and the lion traveling down the endless road. There were moments of silence, moments of sadness, and moments of hope. But through it all, the lion remained by the boy's side, a constant reminder that he wasn't alone. One evening, as the sun set behind the distant mountains, the boy looked up at the sky. The sky was a deep shade of purple, and scattered across it were bright stars, twinkling like little diamonds. He had always been fascinated by the stars, but never felt so drawn to them before. It was in that moment that he saw something, a single star, brighter than the others, falling from the sky. The boy gasped in awe, his heart racing. "Did you see that?" he whispered to the lion, though he knew it could not speak. The lion, however, seemed to acknowledge the star's fall, with a subtle shift in its posture. The boy felt a strange warmth in his chest, as if the universe itself had just sent a message. "It's a sign," he thought, "a sign that something is coming." The lion's gaze never left the star's trail, and the boy couldn't shake the feeling that his journey was far from over, that something amazing awaited them both. The next day, the boy and the lion continued down the road, the lion's steps steady and powerful. As they walked, the boy's eyes caught a figure in the distance, another human. His heart skipped a beat. Could it be someone who could help him? Was this the sign the star had promised? The boy hesitated, unsure if he should approach the stranger or stay with the lion. But the lion, sensing the boy's doubt, let out a low growl, a gentle nudge of encouragement. The boy, feeling a surge of bravery, began to walk towards the figure. As he grew closer, he saw that the person was an old man, weathered by time and the harshness of the world. The man wore ragged clothes, and his face was covered with a long beard. Yet, there was something kind in his eyes, a depth of wisdom that came from a life full of experiences. The boy stopped a few feet away, unsure of what to say. The man looked down at him, his gaze soft and understanding. "You are not alone," the man said quietly, his voice raspy from years of silence. "The lion has been sent to guide you." The boy stared at the lion, whose eyes met his, full of an unspoken truth. "But why me?" the boy asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The old man smiled gently. "The lion chooses those it will protect, just as you have chosen it. You both have a journey ahead of you, a journey that will change everything." After speaking with the old man, the boy and the lion continued their journey. The man's words lingered in the boy's mind. The lion chooses those it will protect. It was a thought that brought comfort and confusion at the same time. Why had the lion chosen him? What did it mean? The boy didn't have all the answers, but he knew one thing for sure. The lion was more than just an animal. It was something much bigger than him, something that could guide him through the unknown. As they traveled, the boy's strength began to grow. His body was still small, fragile, but with the lion by his side, he felt as if he could face anything. They crossed rivers, climbed hills, and braved harsh weather. But the lion never wavered. It was his companion, his protector, and somehow his friend. One evening, after a long day of walking, they found shelter beneath a large tree. The boy leaned against the lion, feeling its warmth and the steady rhythm of its breathing. He closed his eyes, letting the comfort of the lion's presence soothe him. He had no idea what lay ahead, but for the first time in his life, he felt ready to face it. With the lion beside him, he wasn't afraid. The next morning, the boy and the lion set out once again, the road before them stretching into the unknown. The boy's feet were sore, his stomach still empty, but the lion's presence kept him going. The lion moved gracefully beside him, its powerful stride comforting, like a steady beat in the boy's heart. They walked for hours, the sun climbing high in the sky, before they came upon a narrow path leading down into a hidden valley. The valley was lush and green, surrounded by towering trees and colorful flowers the boy had never seen before. The air smelled fresh, filled with the scent of earth and rain. It was a place of peace, a sanctuary from the harsh world outside. As the boy took in the beauty of the valley, he couldn't help but feel that they had found something important, something sacred. The lion paused at the entrance of the valley, its golden eyes scanning the area. It seemed to be waiting for something, or perhaps guiding the boy towards something hidden deep within. "Should we go in?" the boy asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. The lion turned its head toward him, a silent invitation. With a deep breath, the boy stepped forward, following the lion into the heart of the valley. As they ventured deeper into the valley, the air grew heavier, as though something ancient and powerful resided here. The boy noticed strange markings carved into the trees and stones, symbols he didn't recognize. The valley seemed alive with energy, as if it were guarding a secret. They reached a clearing where a large stone altar stood, surrounded by more of the mysterious symbols. The lion stopped and looked at the boy, as if signaling for him to approach. Hesitant but curious, The boy stepped closer to the altar. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled slightly, and a voice echoed from the trees. A deep, commanding voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "You who walk with the lion, prove your worth," the voice said. "Only those pure of heart may continue." The boy's heart raced. He hadn't expected this. He had no idea what the voice meant or how to prove himself. The lion stood beside him, watching quietly, offering no words of advice. "How do I prove myself?" the boy asked, his voice shaky. The voice replied, "Face your greatest fear and show that you are worthy." The boy's chest tightened at the voice's words. He hadn't been afraid of anything in a long time, not since the lion had found him. But now, standing in the mysterious valley, he felt a deep unease stir within him. His greatest fear? He couldn't pinpoint it right away, but he soon realized it was the fear of being alone again, the fear of losing the lion, of having no one left to care for him. As the boy stood frozen in place, a shadow began to form in the center of the clearing. It was a dark, swirling mass, like the embodiment of his fear. Slowly, it took shape, mimicking the boy's own figure, but twisted and hollow-eyed. The shadow stepped forward, reaching for him with long skeletal hands. "No!" the boy cried, stepping back. But the shadow followed, its presence suffocating. The lion growled softly and stepped forward, standing between the boy and the shadow. The boy felt a surge of strength as the lion's protective stance steadied him. The shadow hissed but couldn't advance. Slowly, the boy stepped forward, holding his ground. He realized then that his fear wasn't about the shadow. It was about facing the possibility of being alone. But with the lion by his side, he didn't have to face it alone. He reached out toward the shadow, and with one final push, it dissolved into the air, leaving only silence in its wake. The voice echoed again, softer this time. "You have proven yourself worthy. The path ahead is now open to you." The boy stood still for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. He had done it. He had faced his greatest fear and overcome it, not with strength, but with the courage to stand beside the lion. He looked at the magnificent creature, its eyes filled with quiet pride. "You did it," the boy whispered, reaching out to touch the lion's mane. The lion nuzzled his hand gently, and for a moment, everything felt right. There was no fear, no uncertainty, just the two of them, ready to continue their journey. The boy's eyes welled with tears, not of sadness, but of gratitude. "I won't be afraid anymore," the boy promised, his voice steady. "Not with you by my side." The lion let out a soft, reassuring growl, as if to say, "I will always be with you." The next part of their journey led them to a wide river, its waters shimmering in the moonlight. The boy gazed at the river's surface, mesmerized by the reflections dancing across the water. There was something magical about it, something the boy couldn't quite understand. He had heard tales of a mystical river that could reveal one's deepest dreams and desires, a river that showed the truth of a person's heart. As the boy stared at the water, the lion stepped closer, its eyes fixed on the river as well. "Do you think it's true?" the boy asked, his voice filled with wonder. "That it can show us our dreams?" The lion turned to him, its gaze calm and knowing. The boy stepped closer to the edge of the river, and as he did, the water began to shimmer more brightly, reflecting not just his image, but his memories, his fears, and his dreams. It was as though the river was pulling him into its depths. Suddenly, a vision appeared before him. His parents, standing on a distant shore, their faces filled with sorrow and regret. The boy's heart ached as he watched them, the longing to be reunited with them overwhelming. He wanted to run toward them, to bridge the distance, but something held him back. The lion's presence at his side reminded him he wasn't alone. The next morning, the boy stood at the edge of the river, his heart still heavy with the vision of his parents. He hadn't realized how much he missed them until he saw them in the river's reflection. but something inside him told him that going back would never bring the peace he longed for. The lion nudged him gently, as if urging him to keep moving forward. "Do you think we'll ever find them?" the boy asked, his voice tinged with doubt. The lion's golden eyes met his, as if to say, "It's not about finding them. It's about finding your path." With a deep breath, the boy turned away from the river and began walking along the narrow path that led them deeper into the valley. The lion followed closely behind, its large, powerful form providing a sense of security. The boy didn't know what lay ahead, but he felt the pull of something greater than himself, something that would shape his future. They crossed a small bridge over a fast-moving stream, the sound of the water rushing below them reminding the boy that life moved forward, even when the past felt like it was pulling him back. He could feel the weight of his past beginning to lighten, as if the lion was teaching him to let go and embrace what was yet to come. Days turned into weeks as the boy and the lion traveled through forests, across fields, and over mountains. The boy learned to survive on what the land provided, and the lion's presence kept him grounded. But despite the lion's constant companionship, there were still moments when the boy would wake in the middle of the night, haunted by dreams of his past. The faces of his parents, their voices filled with anger and regret, would flash before him, leaving him feeling lost. One evening, as they rested near a campfire, the boy spoke to the lion for the first time about the pain he carried. "I don't understand," the boy said quietly. "Why did they leave me? What did I do wrong?" The lion's gaze was soft, its eyes filled with a quiet understanding. It didn't need to speak. Its presence alone was enough to comfort the boy. But as the boy continued to speak, something changed within him. The weight of his past, though heavy, began to feel less suffocating. The lion's silent understanding gave him the strength to face the unanswered questions, to forgive himself for things that were beyond his control. As the boy and the lion continued on their journey, they came across a small village nestled in a valley. The villagers were kind, offering them food and shelter for the night. The boy hesitated, unsure whether he should stay or keep moving, but the lion seemed at ease, sensing no danger here. That night, as they sat by the fire, the boy met a girl, a young child who had been orphaned by a terrible storm. She had wandered the streets alone for months, much like the boy had, searching for a place to belong. Her eyes were full of sadness, yet there was a spark of resilience within her that reminded the boy of himself. She approached the boy cautiously, noticing the lion by his side. "Is he yours?" she asked, her voice trembling. The boy smiled gently. "Yes, he's my protector, my companion." The girl's eyes widened in awe. "He's beautiful." The boy nodded, his heart swelling with gratitude. "He's more than beautiful. He's everything I never knew I needed." The boy, the lion, and the girl spent several days in the village, resting and recovering. The boy had grown fond of the girl, and though they shared little in common, they both understood the pain of loneliness. But one evening, as the wind howled through the trees, the lion stood up suddenly, its ears alert. It growled softly, its eyes scanning the distance. "What's wrong?" the boy asked, feeling the tension in the air. The lion turned to him, its gaze serious. Without a word, it began to move toward the forest, signaling for the boy to follow. The girl, sensing the shift, came along too. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the wind seemed to carry a strange whisper, one that beckoned them forward. The boy and the girl exchanged uneasy glances, but the lion led them without hesitation. They followed the path until they came to a clearing, where an ancient stone altar stood. There, waiting in the shadows, was a figure cloaked in black, a figure who had been watching them from afar. The figure stepped forward, its cloak swirling in the wind. The boy instinctively stepped closer to the lion, his heart racing. The stranger's face was hidden in shadow, but the presence was unmistakable, a figure of power and authority. "You have been traveling for far too long," the stranger said, its voice deep and resonant. "You seek something you will not find on this path." The boy felt a shiver run down his spine, but the lion stood firm beside him, unafraid. "I've been lost for so long," the boy replied, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "I'm just trying to find my way." The stranger's eyes glowed faintly beneath the hood, their color hard to distinguish. "The path you walk is not the one you were meant to follow. But there is still time to change your course." The boy glanced at the lion, whose steady gaze reassured him. The boy took a deep breath, his fear slowly giving way to a quiet determination. "I'll find my own path," he said firmly. "With my companion beside me, I can face whatever comes." The stranger's words echoed in the boy's mind, but he wasn't ready to let go of his journey. The lion remained by his side, its silent support guiding him forward. The following days were filled with trials, difficult challenges that tested the boy's will and his strength. He had to cross treacherous mountains, navigate through dark caves, and face illusions that tried to lead him astray. But through it all, the lion remained close, offering him the courage to continue. One night, as they camped beneath the stars, the boy sat in silence. The weight of the journey was heavy, but he could feel the lion's presence next to him, comforting him with its warmth. "I'm scared," the boy admitted quietly. "What if I fail? What if I can't find my place in the world?" The lion nuzzled his hand gently, and the boy felt a surge of strength, as if the lion was telling him without words that failure wasn't an option. The boy understood then. He didn't have to be perfect. He didn't have to know everything. All he had to do was keep moving forward, step by step. With renewed strength, the boy and the lion pressed on. The road ahead was still uncertain, but the boy felt a sense of purpose he hadn't known before. He didn't need to have all the answers. He only needed to trust in the bond he shared with the lion. They were no longer just companions. They were a team, moving together toward an unknown future. The lion's presence was a constant reminder that no matter how hard the journey became, he would never have to face it alone. The journey led the boy and the lion into a dark and mysterious cave. The air inside was damp, heavy with the scent of earth and stone. As they entered, the boy's footsteps echoed against the walls, each step magnified in the silence. The deeper they ventured, the more oppressive the darkness became, until they could barely see their own hands in front of their faces. The boy felt a rising unease, a sense of isolation creeping back into his heart. It felt as though the darkness of the cave was echoing his own fears. But the lion pressed on, unfazed by the shadows. The boy took a deep breath and followed. As they moved deeper, the boy's heart began to race. Suddenly, the cave seemed to come alive with strange, disembodied voices. Whispers that bounced off the walls, repeating his doubts and fears. "You're not strong enough," one voice hissed. "You'll never make it," another sneered. The boy stopped in his tracks, gripped by the voices. But the lion, sensing his distress, stepped forward, growling softly. The echoes stopped immediately, replaced by an almost palpable silence. "Don't listen to them," the lion seemed to say with its steady presence. The boy nodded, taking a step forward, choosing not to be swayed by the voices. The echo of his fears faded as the boy realized that he had the power to overcome them. He wasn't alone. After leaving the cave, the boy and the lion entered a vast open field. The sky above was dark with heavy clouds, and a storm was brewing. The wind howled, sending the boy's hair whipping in every direction. He looked to the lion for guidance, and the animal's gaze was unshaken. Its confidence gave the boy courage. The storm grew fiercer by the minute. The boy could barely stand against the wind, but the lion moved forward with purpose, guiding the boy toward a large rock formation in the distance. As they approached the shelter, the storm's intensity seemed to rise, the thunder roaring like an angry beast. The boy felt the pressure of the storm, but the lion remained calm, its eyes fixed on the shelter. Once inside, the boy collapsed, exhausted from battling the fierce winds. "How can you be so calm?" the boy asked, his voice barely audible over the storm. The lion laid down beside him, its fur bristling against the cold wind. It didn't respond, but its presence spoke volumes. The storm outside raged, but within the shelter, there was peace. The boy understood then. The lion wasn't afraid because it knew that all storms, no matter how fierce, would eventually pass. The storm passed, and the next morning, the sun broke through the clouds, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. But as the boy and the lion made their way forward, they encountered another figure, a stranger who stood at the crossroads ahead. The man's eyes were sharp, and his face was lined with years of experience. "You seek something," the man said, his voice carrying a weight of authority. "But to continue, you must prove your worth once again." The boy's heart skipped a beat. Another trial. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this, but the lion stood firm, its eyes watching the stranger with quiet understanding. "What must I do?" the boy asked, his voice steady despite the uncertainty. The stranger raised an eyebrow. "You must face your inner self, the fears and doubts that still hold you back." With that, the stranger vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a swirling mist. The boy looked to the lion for guidance, but the lion remained silent, offering only a deep, knowing gaze. The boy closed his eyes, breathing deeply. He had come so far, but the fears that still lingered in his heart were not easy to silence. Slowly, the boy began to let go of his doubts, one by one. He realized that he had the strength to face anything, especially with the lion by his side. The boy continued walking, each step carrying him closer to his goal. He had faced so many trials already, but the journey was far from over. The lion's presence was more than just protection. It was a constant source of strength. As they crossed a vast open plain, the boy began to feel a sense of awakening deep within himself. He had always been afraid of being alone, afraid of failing, afraid of the unknown. But now he felt something different, a quiet confidence, a knowledge that he was capable of more than he had ever imagined. "Thank you," the boy whispered to the lion, though the words felt insufficient for everything the animal had done for him. The lion looked up at him, its golden eyes filled with something that felt almost like pride. They were a team now, two souls bound by an unspoken understanding. After a few more days of travel, the boy and the lion came upon another river, this one unlike any they had encountered before. The water was still and silent, its surface reflecting the sky above like a perfect mirror. The boy hesitated at the riverbank, unsure of how to cross. The lion stepped forward, its gaze locked on the water. It didn't hesitate. Without a word, it waded into the river, moving steadily across its surface. The boy watched in awe as the lion navigated the still water with grace. The river, calm and unyielding, mirrored the boy's own journey. At times it felt as though he was standing still, unable to move forward. But with the lion by his side, he knew that he could face any obstacle, no matter how still or silent. The boy followed the lion across, feeling the cool water flow around him, cleansing his spirit as they crossed together. As the journey continued, the boy began to notice a subtle shift in himself. The boy, who had once been lost, abandoned, and afraid, was beginning to emerge as someone different. He was no longer a boy alone on the road. He was someone who had learned to rely on himself and on the strength of his companion. One day, they reached a small, secluded valley surrounded by tall, ancient trees. It was a peaceful place, far from the chaos and turmoil of the world outside. The air was still and calm, and the boy felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: peace. "This is it, isn't it?" the boy said quietly, as he sat down beneath the shade of a large tree. The lion lay beside him, its head resting on its paws. The boy understood then that the journey wasn't about finding a place, but about finding the strength within himself. He had found his place in the world, not in some distant land, but within his own heart. As the boy rested in the valley, he fell into a deep sleep. In his dreams, he saw a vision: his parents, standing in a beautiful garden, their faces no longer filled with sorrow, but with peace. The boy approached them, unsure of what to say, but they didn't speak. Instead, they embraced him. a warm, loving hug that filled the boy with an overwhelming sense of love and forgiveness. When the boy awoke, he was filled with a quiet sense of contentment. He didn't need to find his parents anymore. He had found his own path, and that was enough. The boy and the lion continued their journey, now with a new understanding of themselves and each other. The road ahead was still uncertain, but the boy felt no fear. He had faced his inner demons and emerged stronger than ever. And with the lion at his side, he knew that whatever came next, he could handle it. The future was unwritten, but the boy was no longer afraid to walk toward it. One day, the boy and the lion reached the edge of a great mountain range. The air was thin, and the peaks rose high into the sky. The boy could feel the weight of the journey pressing down on him, but the lion stepped forward, as if urging him to take the first step. Ahead of them lay the final trial, the path up the mountain. It would not be easy, but the boy was no longer afraid. With each step, he grew stronger, his bond with the lion unbreakable. He had found his strength, his courage, and his purpose. After days of climbing, the boy and the lion reached the summit of the mountain. From the top, the boy could see the entire world spread out before him. The road behind him, the journey that had brought him here, seemed far away, but the lessons he had learned would stay with him forever. He looked down at the lion, his heart full of gratitude. "We did it," he whispered. The lion gave a soft growl, as if agreeing. They had come so far, but the boy knew that their journey wasn't over. The world was vast, and there was still much to see. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead. As the boy and the lion stood at the mountain's summit, the vast landscape stretched before them. The boy felt a sense of awe, but he also felt something else, a deep sense of peace. For the first time in his life, he felt like he truly understood his place in the world. The journey had been long, but every step had led him to this moment. "You've come so far," a voice suddenly said, echoing from the wind itself. The boy turned to see an old man standing beside them, his face wrinkled with age, but his eyes sharp and clear. He had appeared out of nowhere, as if he had always been waiting for them. The boy stepped forward. "Who are you?" he asked, his curiosity piqued. "I am a traveler like you," the man replied. "But unlike you, I've walked many paths and learned many lessons along the way. I've come to offer you a gift, the gift of wisdom." The boy looked at the lion, who was standing silently beside him. The lion nodded slightly, as if encouraging him to listen. "The wisdom you seek," the man continued, "is not something that can be given in an instant. It comes with time, with experience. But I can offer you this. You are not just a boy who was lost. You are a person who has found himself through the love and strength of a companion. That is the greatest wisdom anyone can possess." The boy stood in silence, absorbing the man's words. For so long, he had searched for answers. But now, standing on this mountain, he realized the answers had always been inside him. With the man's gift of wisdom, the boy and the lion descended the mountain. The journey had not been easy, and the path ahead remained uncertain. But the boy now carried a lightness in his heart. He knew that he was stronger than he had ever believed. He no longer needed to run from his past. His heart, once broken, was now whole. As they walked together through a dense forest, the boy looked down at the lion. "You've been with me through everything," he said quietly. "I don't think I could have made it this far without you." The lion looked up at him with eyes full of quiet strength. There were no words needed. Its presence was enough. The boy understood that the lion was more than a companion. It was a reflection of the strength he had always carried within himself. They reached the edge of the forest, where a new horizon awaited them. The boy no longer felt the weight of loneliness or fear. He was ready for whatever came next. One evening, as the boy and the lion traveled through a wide meadow, the boy saw a strange structure in the distance. It looked like a massive mirror, shimmering under the setting sun. Intrigued, the boy approached. the lion following closely behind. When they reached the mirror, the boy looked into it and was shocked by what he saw. His reflection was not the scared, lost boy he had been at the start of his journey. Instead, he saw a young man with a calm expression, standing tall beside the lion. He saw strength in his own eyes and a sense of peace that radiated from within. The boy smiled, realizing the mirror didn't just reflect his appearance, it reflected his transformation. All the trials, all the pain, had shaped him into the person he was now. He was no longer the boy who had been abandoned on the road. He was someone who had learned to stand tall, to face the world with courage and love. The lion sat beside him, its golden fur glowing in the evening light, as if to say, "This is who you are now. This is who you've always been." As they continued their journey, the boy noticed something unusual, a fork in the road ahead. One path seemed to lead to a distant city, where the lights of civilization beckoned. The other path, however, led into an unexplored wilderness, where the trees grew thick and wild, and the horizon seemed endless. The boy stood still, unsure of which path to take. The lion, however, walked toward the wilderness path without hesitation. The boy hesitated for a moment, but then realized that the lion's instinct was guiding them forward. "This is where we're meant to go," the boy said quietly, following the lion. It wasn't the familiar safe path, but it was the one that called to him. The deeper they traveled into the wilderness, the more the boy felt the weight of his journey. The air was thick with the scent of wildflowers, but there was also a heaviness to it. The boy could feel his soul being tested, stretched to its limits. There were moments when he felt as though he might lose his way again, but the lion was always by his side, keeping him grounded. One night, as they camped under a sky full of stars, the boy looked at the lion. "Do you ever get tired?" he asked. The lion's eyes glowed in the firelight, and the boy could see the wisdom in them. "No," the lion seemed to say, "because I know the journey never ends." The boy smiled softly, feeling the weight of that truth. The road would continue to be difficult, but he had learned that every challenge was part of the journey, not a reason to give up. After several weeks of traveling through the wilderness, the boy came to a realization. The road he had walked, the trials he had faced, the lion at his side, all of it had been shaped by the choices he made. He had chosen to keep moving, even when everything seemed impossible. He had chosen to face his fears, and through those choices, he had become someone new. One day, while resting by a tranquil lake, the boy asked the lion, "What if I had chosen differently at any point? What if I had given up?" The lion's gaze was steady, as though it understood the weight of the boy's question. Then it nuzzled the boy gently, as if to say, "Every choice has led you to this moment. You are here because of everything you've chosen, and no matter what happens, you'll always have the strength to choose again." The boy understood then that it wasn't about making perfect choices. It was about choosing with his heart and trusting that each step would lead him closer to where he needed to be. As the boy and the lion continued their journey, they came across a dark valley. The shadows here seemed to stretch endlessly, and the air felt thick with a sense of foreboding. The boy felt a chill run down his spine as they entered the valley, but the lion pressed on, unafraid. Suddenly, they were surrounded by shadows, creatures that seemed to come alive from the darkness itself. The boy stood frozen, but the lion stepped forward, its growl low and menacing. The shadows recoiled at the lion's presence, vanishing as quickly as they had come. The boy looked at the lion in awe. "You're not afraid of them," he said, his voice trembling. The lion's eyes shone with quiet wisdom. "Darkness can only exist if we allow it to. Fear can only control us if we let it." The boy nodded, understanding. He had faced his own darkness, and with the lion by his side, he knew he could face anything. After passing through the valley, the boy and the lion entered a new land, a place filled with light and warmth. The sun shone brightly, and the air felt pure. The boy looked around, amazed by the beauty of this place. "This is it, isn't it?" the boy said softly, his heart filled with peace. The lion sat beside him, its golden fur gleaming in the sunlight. "This is where your journey ends, but your life is just beginning." The boy smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come so far, and though his journey had been difficult, it had led him here, where he was meant to be. With the lion by his side, the boy was ready for the next chapter of his life, one that would be filled with endless possibilities. Years passed, and the boy grew into a young man. He had become a leader in the land of light, helping others find their way just as the lion had helped him. His bond with the lion had only deepened, and together they had shown countless others the power of love, strength, and the courage to face their fears. One day, as the sun set over the horizon, the boy, now a man, stood by the lake with the lion at his side. "We've come so far," he said quietly, "but it feels like we're just beginning." The lion turned its gaze to the boy, its eyes filled with pride. The man knew that the journey would never truly end. There would always be new challenges, new paths to walk, but with the lion by his side, he would always be ready. As the years passed, the man continued to honor the lessons he had learned from his journey with the lion. The bond between them had grown deeper with each passing day, a bond that could never be broken. The lion had taught him the true meaning of strength, not just physical strength, but the strength of the heart and the spirit. One day, as they stood on the hill overlooking the valley, the man whispered softly to the lion, "Thank you for everything. I am who I am because of you." The lion nudged him gently, its eyes full of love. The man knew, in that moment, that the lion's journey had not just been about finding a path, but about finding love, acceptance, and purpose. Together, they stood side by side, their hearts intertwined in an eternal bond that would last forever.